We're learning more this morning about a new strategy to end the redistricting standoff at the Texas Capitol. The deadline for Texas House Democrats to return to the special session is now here.
And U.S. Senator John Cornyn now says the FBI will locate and investigate those breaking quorum. Let's bring in GMAT's Madeline McCrory for this latest strategy. Good morning, Madeline.
Good morning. We're waiting to see what else day 5 of this political standoff will bring as House Democrats delay voting on a new congressional map. That map could flip 5 seats to favor Republicans in the upcoming midterm election. Today is AG Ken Paxton's deadline for the Democrats to return to Texas, or he would ask a court to declare their seats vacant. Meanwhile, the Texas Supreme Court has now given the House Democratic leader, State Representative Jean Wu, until the end of the day to respond to Governor Greg Abbott's call to expel the representative. And as we mentioned, Senator Cornyn revealed the FBI will get involved too. Earlier this week, Senator Cornyn asked FBI Director Kash Patel to find out whether the Democrats violated corruption laws. The Bureau also approved his request to locate the lawmakers. On a radio show, Cornyn addressed other legislation passed by the quorum break.
A number of things on the call that Governor Abbott has listed, including redistricting, but they're missing all of those. And I think that's irresponsible, and I think we just need to get to the bottom of it.
Democratic Caucus Chairman Jean Wu says his colleagues are determined to stay out of the state for as long as it takes to stop the GOP's plan to redistrict.
If Governor Abbott wants to come back and say, you know, you're right, I'm sorry, we should have been focusing on disaster preparation and helping the families and the communities hurt by the 4th of July disasters. We're open. We're willing to listen. If Governor Abbott says we will call the next special session and only focus on those things, and we will do political nonsense later, Democrats will be back.
Senator Cornyn says the FBI assigned agents from the San Antonio and Austin offices to help. Specific details about what role the agents will play has not yet been revealed, and the FBI isn't confirming the senator's announcement. The Texas House has already issued arrest warrants for the lawmakers. Governor Abbott mobilized the Texas Department of Public Safety in the arrest efforts. But with the Democrats outside state lines, Texas State Police cannot arrest them. Each of the House Democrats breaking quorum face $2,000 in fines. It goes up another $500 each day they miss. Governor Abbott has already said he'd call another special session if new maps aren't passed by August 19th. Back to y'all.
All right, Madeline, thank you.